Shalom. I decided to put the Torah portions on hold for a while because I'm facing a new cycle in my life due to unexpected circumstances that I'm going through. Now, what I decided to do, because I'm working through a process of inner searching myself and discovering who I am and where my flaws are. And I would like to include you on this journey and the little gems that I learn to go through these processes that I have to go through. Hopefully it will mean something to someone going through something as dramatic, as life-changing as I'm going through. So the one thing that stood up for me, stand out for me, facing something totally unexpected. And that can be someone dying or an accident or whatever can happen. Something is not part of your planning will disrupt your life in such a way that you will feel hopeless. Now the question you have to ask you, why did this thing disrupt me in such a way that I can't function in a normal way? Now the question before that is, you have to ask yourself, what is normal? So we have the tendency to create normality for ourselves. That's creating a little barrier, something that supports you, something that protects you, something that's a crutch, something that keep you going, something that's familiar. And if I go through this one thing every day, there's security in that, and I know what is coming, so that gives me safety, a sense of safety and security, because it's predictable, but it's controlled and created by me. Now there's a few things, as I discussed with the gate of the Chet and the Taf. The one is life and the other one is death. Now death, of course, is just separation. It can be a death to anything. You can lose your job, you can lose a limb, you can lose one of your senses, you can lose a loved one. Whatever loss you'll experience, and every single one of us will go through that in this life. And then it's the final separation where you will be separated, and then others will experience the same loss that you will experience when you lost someone. So in the past, I lost my mother when I was still young, and I lost my dad after that 9 years later. So I can associate and relate to the processes of grief and loss and all that. And it's hard, it's not easy. But the intensity of the emotional state that you go through and how it disrupts your life is based on how bound you were and how dependent you were on either that person, that thing, that job, that little fence of security you built for yourself, your bank account, your savings, whatever it might be. It is a crutch. And what we suffer is not bondage. We suffer freedom. Because if you lose those things, you're sort of set free from the security that you had in this life. And that terrifies you, because what do I do now? I don't have my little cycle anymore. I don't have this support anymore. There's a big hole that is now left that I need to face. I don't even know how to fill this thing. So that in itself is the problem of our society. We all have these dependencies. Now the word says, don't depend on any man whatsoever. Don't trust in any man. Trust in me. Yes, we believe it, but we actually don't do it. We trust in man. You trust in yourself more than anything else. Then you trust in the closest loved ones, closest to you. And the more you trust them, the more dependent you are on them, the harder you will fall when these things are disrupted in your life. I'm not saying not to have a close bond, but it's more a choice to enjoy the person's company letting them be free to express themselves in such a beautiful way that you can enjoy their company, rather than being a dependency or being someone they depend on and you depend on them. Because we're not supposed to do that. We are supposed to be free in a way to express the fullness of you without any bondage, because then your true character will flourish and come out. Now the test is, if you're completely alone and you have to spend time with yourself, do you like yourself? Do you enjoy your own company? Or does it drive you crazy? Do you need someone else? Do you need noise? Do you need a distraction in order to cope? Now, if any of those questions are yes or true, then you have a dependency and a bondage in your life that you need to get rid of. You need to be at peace with yourself, who you are. And you have to connect to the higher level, which is Yahweh. Not connect to people, not connect to physical securities, not connect to the securities of your job, because all those things can be taken away in a moment of time. And we have no control over it, and it will totally disrupt your life. So the lesson I've learned going through this situation is to face myself. I had to forgive myself as well. Because when something happened to you, there's always regret, there's always guilt, there's always things I could have done or I shouldn't have done. And then you sit with that, then you add another layer of pain upon the pain that you're experiencing with the loss. So you have to forgive yourself, the previous you, so that the current you can have peace. And that is a very, very important step in order to heal. And not to heal because of the situation, to heal of the bondage that you had prior to the situation. And this situation that is coming upon you, that it disrupts your life, is just shaking you loose from all the bondages that you have, opening your eyes to the real reality that you now have to face. And it's terrifying. And then you need to start thinking about, how do I ground this thing? How do I make sense of this? Because I feel helpless. I feel I'm floating in mid-air. I'm going to crash or hit something. I don't know. I don't have anything to hold on to. That's a good place to be. Because that's a place where you need to find your inner self, where you need to look inwardly. And you have to spend time with yourself in order to unpack who you are. What is the reasoning of the things that you've done in your life, and reflect on that. Because if you can go through this process of healing on the inside, and we all have scars, we all have hurt, we all have gaps and dependencies and all sorts of things. That's unfortunately the makeup of and the product of our culture, the things we are exposed to, our programming within our societies through media and whatnot, and even the expectation of having a career and being successful and all that. The faster you run in this race, the closer, or if you win this race and you outrun anyone else, the end of that race is death. And that's a premature death. It can be a spiritual death, emotional death. You can still be alive but not experience true life, because you've absorbed all your resources and you utilize all your resources to outrun everyone, because you're driven by fear. The fear of not surviving, the fear of not being protected. Now, if you think about the real thing behind religion is fueled by fear. And then through fear, people create mechanisms and things that they do that they can control in order to make them feel safe. So they create themselves little crutches that they use to walk with. And if they have their crutch in their hand, their little support in their hand, whatever they do, and this is something they need to maintain all the time, then they feel secure. So your security doesn't come from the one you actually say you're serving. It's self-serving, because you're doing a good job of doing whatever you do, whether it's a ritual, whether it's reciting a passage just from the mind, not really expressing it through your life. It's just something mechanical, like a little recipe. doesn't mean anything, because it's driven by fear, and it's to maintain your little fence that gives you the sense of protection. Now, you can be fearful of the future. You can be fearful of not having money. You can be fearful of what is coming, the great tribulation, judgment, whatever. If your motive of serving God, serving Yahweh, is fear, then you're missing the point. Because Yahweh's attributes are expressed through the 13 attributes of grace that He revealed to Moshe. And every single one of them are associated with mercy, with Himself, and with forgiveness. There's no fear in that. Now, peace is not something you can maintain by doing something. Peace is a quality and a consequence of being. And being something is what true faith is having the inner understanding of who you are and who Yahweh is. And in that understanding and that relationship with one another, the expression of that understanding is peace, and is a life without bondage, expressing life. Now, life is not something we maintain and create through maintaining our fences, mechanisms, and things for our fear of survival or whatever drives us. Anything you do that you need to maintain and drive that exhausts you. When you get tired, the fence goes down, the ability to attain more wealth or whatever will deplete, your health may give in, and then you're on your own, all alone, and it's all you're doing that you can't maintain anymore, and then everything falls to pieces because you created those little bondages for yourself. Even your hopes and dreams is something that is already within you that you amplify and magnify. It's not really expressing life. Life is not something that you can predict. Life is random. And the way you react to the randomness and the consequences of circumstances that happens with you will give you the experience of life. Whether the consequence is good or bad, you can still have a good experience. So my experience that I'm going through is the inner learning experience of who I am in order to give my faith and my life a foundation so that I can express it as a consequence of being, a quality that will radiate light and life, that will move other people when I'm in their presence. Not that that's the goal, but it will be effortless. It will be a side effect. Like Yeshua said, look at the birds, look at the field. They don't do stuff. Your Father will look after them anyway. In the same way, our faith is not something you maintain, keep in motion by putting in a lot of effort, running, doing sit-ups, squats, whatever, spiritual sit-ups and squats and things, and remembering and memorizing a lot of scripture and all of that. It's a deep, deep, deep understanding of who you are, who Yahweh is, and to internalize His truth in your heart, to express it without effort, expressing the commandments without thinking about them. That's the quality of walking in light. And that starts with you. It starts with breaking down the fences. Now, I don't wish any disruption and any major event on anyone, but it is a blessing if it happens. You have to face it full on, embrace it with both arms, and don't let it go until you get all the answers of who you truly are, how you can be set free from yourself, from your own inner bondages, to be released from your own fears and your own dependencies, and how you can fully engage with Yahweh in such a way that you become one with Him and express life through the quality that you become. So those are the few things I just want to share on my journey. So I'll probably share some more this weekend. I'm not going to make it interactive. I'm not going to invite people into this conversation. This is part of my being isolated, reflecting on myself and organizing my thoughts. But I do want to take you on the journey of my walk, because we all will face this in one way, shape or another. And I want to use this very, very traumatic, painful experience to express light in life, because that is the purpose of everything that happens to us, is to turn it around, any darkness, and to reflect light from the darkness. And the deeper the darkness, the more understanding you have, the more foundational truth you have on what the light is actually worth, and that embody that into your being. So I'll leave you with those thoughts today. I hope you have a lovely day. Shalom.